Hello, everybody, and happy Sunday. Welcome back to Wedding Planning Simplified. My name is Jacqueline, and I'm one of the wedding coordinators at Unmistakably You. Now, if you join us every Sunday, you already know what we're here to talk about. But if you're brand new to the Wedding Planning Simplified group, or you're brand new to taking advantage of our resources, every single Sunday, Amy, whether it's a team, whether it's with me, or whether it's myself solo, we go live at 1 o'clock to give you our top tips for a plethora of topics. Now, being wedding planners in the on season, it really gives us a hands-on effect as to what couples need most. Now, what I've been noticing as we enter our itinerary meetings is that a lot of people don't have a master of ceremonies this year, which if you're any of my couples, you're going to watch this video and be like, hey, you didn't tell me that it was absolutely crucial I have an MC, because there's always exceptions to the rule. You know your wedding best, you know your family members best, and you know your wedding guests best. If you truly believe that your wedding guests are going to know exactly where to be and when, if you trust that all of your family members will stay in the room and do as they're told the first time that they're told, then you probably don't need an MC. But if you are like the 99.9% of weddings, you're probably going to need one, because I love human beings. I genuinely do. But when you get human beings and an exciting environment and alcohol and not seeing each other for a couple of years, and the energy of a wedding, and I'm in heels, and I look so nice, they're probably not going to remember the one time you told them to sit down. You're probably going to want an MC any weddings or anything that's moving forward into a post-pandemic world, simply because that herding kittens factor of human beings has only become stronger now that those human beings haven't been around each other for a while. So with that in mind, I'm going to do my best to keep this clear and concise. And I'm also going to give a little bit of a short clip at the very end that you can crop and send to your MC with our top tips as some things to help them survive the role. Now, again, Amy and I can talk for hours and hours about the things, the experiences, and the lessons that we've learned from our weddings, but I'm going to try to work in threes. So starting with our first topic of the day, I'm going to give you the 3 reasons as to why it is not needed, but crucial to have a master's of ceremonies. Now, a master's of ceremonies makes it sound very formal. It makes it sound like you're going to the Oscars and this person knows everything and they're in the fancy dress and the fancy suit and they're talking a lot. It doesn't have to be that. It could just be a very charismatic wedding party member that knows how to grab the attention of a room, that can be clear, that can be concise, and can get to the point. Now, the main reasons as to why you're going to want to have a person like that is because you're going to need somebody that actually is a point of connection. Now, Amy and I talk all the time that on the day, you're going to want a point of contact for your vendors, but for your wedding guests, you're going to want a point of connection. I know we say, it's your day, but it's really not. It is a day that is blending 2 amazing families together, but also 2 friend groups together, maybe multiple friend groups. Maybe you have some friends from college as well as some friends from your childhood, and you need to get them on an even playing ground because they don't know your partner. They sure as heck don't know your partner's parents who are about to talk for 5 minutes. So having a master's of ceremonies gives you the opportunity to have a point of connection for all of your wedding guests and allows them to all meet on an even playing field. Now, what I mean by this is that you will likely choose a master's of ceremonies, whether it's your DJ and it's a professional, or if it's a friend or family member or whoever it might be, but you're going to want to pick somebody that has some great stories about the 2 of you together, but also has some great stories of the 2 of you as individuals. And then you're going to want some stories about the parents and the siblings and the friends. And the reason you want this is because you need someone to bridge the gap of all of your wedding guests and kind of explain the backstory of people. I know that speeches are one of my favorite things as a wedding guest, but I tend to check out at maybe midpoint of the father of the groom speech if I don't know the groom's family that well, because although everyone's joking and laughing about that one time that Stephen hit the half pipe and almost broke his arm, I wasn't there. I don't really know the story. I don't really know the context, and I just really hope Stephen was okay. So having a master's of ceremonies allows all of your guests to get to know you, your partner, and your partner's family just a little bit more. It's also a great person that will keep the flow of your night going. So of course, weddings are all about sharing stories and sharing experiences and sharing the love between you and your family members. But just like a good Facebook Live with the Unmistakably You team, we tend to drag on about things that we're passionate about. So having somebody that's able to keep the flow of the night and usher your guests from ceremony location into the cocktail hour location, having somebody lead your guests from cocktail into guest seating, having somebody go from guest seating into your speeches. Maybe you have a buffet style dinner. You will need somebody to be calling tables up, and you're going to need somebody to be reminding those tables once they've been called up that means they need to get up from their chairs, stop telling their stories, and go and get their food because, Tina, we're starving here. So that is a number one reason as to why I always recommend an MC, is to keep the flow as well as to build that connection. Now, keeping the flow is crucial for a few things. We are seeing a lot of different reception styles with weddings these days. Maybe you're deciding not to host a dance after the dinner, but you're going to head into more of a nightcap, slower cocktail hour. You're going to want to have somebody that's able to explain what comes next and what guests can expect. We've all been to weddings before, or we like to think, but you could actually be the first couple for a few wedding guests that they're able to attend a wedding for. And they may not actually know what happens because the movies don't show every single scene in a wedding. So having somebody that's able to break up all of those little events, like the ceremony, guest seating, speeches, dances, will really help keep the flow of the night, which is also a very nice way to have somebody introduce all of your speeches without it becoming too political. I know in years past and traditions past, there's always the one partner's family that typically pays for the wedding, that typically is hosting the whole evening, I want to say, and saying, you know, welcome to our family, welcome to this. But that's not really the case anymore, is it? Most of us are paying for our own weddings, or if we're not paying for our own weddings, most families are chipping in fairly evenly. So it makes it difficult to decide who gets to speak first. So having a Masters of Ceremonies, it eliminates that political game already. The other reason why I always recommend having a Masters of Ceremonies is because it's somebody that's going to keep the energy up in the room. Now, I'm not saying you need somebody that has like the air horns and the smoke machines to go like, wah, wah, introducing so-and-so. Like it's not a prom, but you also don't want somebody that's going to be up at the front saying, okay, now we're going to go to guest seating. Now we're going to invite the couple up to dance. It doesn't really keep that energy up, and it definitely doesn't create the tone and the vibe that you and your partner have worked so hard to achieve with your decor, with the whole playlist, with whatever you've done to create this day. You're going to want to have a Masters of Ceremonies to be able to keep that vibe up. Because as much as Amy and I would love to be able to tell you that you spend all day in the room with your guests and you get so much time with them, there's going to be a point where you might have to step out for photos. And if your guests don't know what to do or where you went, they might not know where to go or when to go, or if they should be going or if they should be staying. So finding a way to really integrate someone to keep the flow, someone to build those connections, and ultimately someone able to keep the vibe where you want that vibe to be are my top 3 reasons to have an MC. It is just, like I said, I could go on for hours about the reasons why I think you should have an MC, but we just don't have the time for it. I also did want to make a quick note. And again, DJs, please don't get mad at me. This is a super controversial opinion, but I personally don't think your MC should be your DJ. And here's why. And again, it's really controversial to say, but the same way that Amy and I say, you know, your photographer shouldn't be worried about whether Aunt Joe is back from the washroom before we start family photos. Your DJ shouldn't have to worry about if Aunt Joe is in the room for speeches. He's trying to keep the vibe going with the great dinner music. He may not have time, or they may not have time, to check in that every single integral member of your family is there. So if you do not have the luxury of a day of coordinator, you will want the luxury of having a Masters of Ceremonies that understands and knows who the important family members are for you and who needs to be in the room when. Because I can count on 2 hands how many times we have tried to get a bouquet toss going, but there is a choreographed catch with one of the bridesmaids and she has to be the one that catches it. And we start the bouquet toss music and that bridesmaid is nowhere to be found. So you're going to want to make sure that all of the important people are in the room when they need to be in the room. And if you do not have a Masters of Ceremonies, oftentimes this falls on your DJ, which creates a really difficult opportunity if they've got to match up all of the amazing songs that you've selected for all of those personal moments. So when you're selecting your MC, keep that in mind. I'm not here to say you can never use a DJ, because there are some incredible DJs in London that also rock the MC world, and they are able to divide and conquer their brain and make it work. But if you're able to find somebody, whether it's on your guest list or a friend that's actually not invited to the wedding, but you do want to have them there in some aspect, it's okay to hire them on as the masters of ceremonies. When you're choosing it though, like I said, you're going to want to choose a masters of ceremonies that knows the two of you equally. Now, again, speaking from experience, surprise, surprise, I'm the extroverted one in our relationship, which means that a lot of my friends are equally as outgoing and confident behind a mic. Again, shout out to theater school. You gave me some skills, I suppose. And a lot of my friends are from my theater school background. So when it comes to Alex and I selecting an MC, more often than not, it's probably going to go on that side of my friend group. But I'm going to make sure that I take the time to tell some wicked stories about Alex. I'm going to make sure that my MC knows all about all of my family members, that they integrate all of the bonus parents that I have. So you're going to want to select somebody that either knows you both equally or is willing to get to know you both equally, is willing to sit down and have not just one cup of coffee, but maybe 5 cups of coffee at different settings to get to know you, your partner, the stories you want to share. You want somebody that's going to take the time and the care and getting to know your partner, yourselves, your wedding plans, as well as getting to know the run sheet of the day. So choosing a masters of ceremonies, I know we often go for the most extroverted, the funniest, maybe the one that's done it before and killed the room, but you also want to select somebody that's responsible. Now, again, these roles don't typically go hand in hand. Sometimes you've got one friend that can really bring down the house and can captivate an entire room, but only after 3 or 4 beers. This is not the person you're going to want as your MC. You're going to want to have somebody that, one, like I said, can keep the vibe, can keep the energy up, that can build the connections between you and your family and can share stories of you and your partner together separately and also as a beautiful duo that you are. But you're also really, really, really going to want to choose somebody that appreciates organization. Now, I know as a wedding planner, I put a lot of stress on an itinerary. I put a lot of stress on the timing of the ceremony, the timing of guest seating, the time that dinner is starting, the time that speeches are starting, and the time that dances are starting. The reason I do that is because this is often when the most amount of drinking is happening. So if I know for sure, okay, 4 o'clock is ceremony, 4:30 is cocktail, 6:30 is guest seating, I have that run sheet drilled in my brain. So I'm not checking my watch every 30 seconds going, is it time? Is it time? I have a rough idea of the day, but I also always respect an MC that turns to me when I go to check in with them and goes, I got your run sheet right here, Jack. It's all good. So you want somebody that can, one, be fun and can bring down the house, but you also need somebody that is responsible enough to remember the run sheet that you made for them, and somebody that's fluid enough that can go with the flow and recognize that some things will change, but there are certain things that need to happen at certain points. So again, the more meetings you're able to have with your masters of ceremony, the better. You want them to know your wedding plans almost as well as you do, recognizing that they are still a guest. You need to express to them that they are a guest, but they are playing a fairly crucial role in your reception. So I know Amy and I consistently say that we never want the masters of ceremonies to feel like they have to do any work. We are always, when we're at a wedding, introducing ourselves to the MC, explaining, hey, you can take your watch off. We'll tap you on the shoulder when it's time for you to go to the mic. But if you do not, again, have the luxury of a day of coordinator or a venue coordinator to be able to tap people on the shoulders and say when they need to speak and where, you're going to want to choose somebody that's responsible enough to have the run sheet on them, to be checking their own watches and keeping things ebbing and flowing for you. And again, it's never fun, but always set your expectations. I think we did an expectation series a couple of, I don't want to say months ago, but I honestly think it's been that long. We did an expectation series a couple of months ago, and it was all about understanding that your MC, your guests, and your vendors just need to know what you want. If you know what you want, to be clear is to be kind, explain the role that you want your MC to play, and let them follow suit. Now, again, as promised, I'm trying to keep this as quick as I can. So if there are any questions or any comments about, whether or not you really need an MC and if it's necessary for the flow of your day, drop them below now. That kind of ends the little bits that I had in terms of why having an MC is crucial and things for you to consider while you're selecting an MC. The next little part is something that I hope that you're able to trim down. Again, I'm happy to send this recording to anyone who needs it. But trim down this next part of the video and send this point onwards to your masters of ceremonies, because I'm going to be giving my 3 top tips on how to be a rock and roll MC. Now, if you have been selected to be a Masters of Ceremonies, congratulations. Your friends clearly have a lot of faith in you, and you must be charismatic. At some point in your life, you must have told one good joke to get behind that microphone. So my name is Jacqueline. Again, I work with Unmistakably You, and I'm going through my top 3 tips to be the best MC that you can be, but also recognize that there are a lot of wicked resources out there. So if you're able to get back onto our Wedding Planning Simplified Facebook group, if your friend sent this to you separately, jump over to our page. We do have a PDF for all things speeches and all things how to kind of captivate a room at a wedding. But we also have, again, this wicked resource video that we put together for you. So my number 1 rule when being an MC, or if I'm giving a little bit of a rundown to some friends when they're an MC, is to be yourself, which sounds so corny. And it sounds like I'm back in grade 5 telling you, like, just be yourself and everyone will love you. But genuinely be you. Be you. Don't be funny. I think we all have been in rooms where someone is trying to be funny and it just hurts. Like, there's no other way to explain it. You're watching somebody just bomb behind the mic and there's no saving them. And we're all just sitting in a plate of secondhand embarrassment. So please, whatever you do, be yourself before you try to be funny. This is not your Netflix special. You are not the next Pete Davidson. You are not the next Michael Che. You are just a Masters of Ceremony for this evening. Absolutely rock and roll with it. Make it your own. But understand that this is not your night. This is still your friend's night. This is still a wedding, not a roast. The other advice that I have to give you, and again, of course, the wedding planner is telling me to stick to a schedule. Please, if there's one thing that you take away from this resource video on how to be a good MC, it is to follow that run sheet. Whether it's your friends that have made it for you or a wedding professional, there is a reason why cocktail hour is starting at a certain period. There is a reason why guest seating is announced at a certain time. It's because they know the way that they'd like the day to ebb and flow. And although there are some areas where you can be fluid and you can make some decisions, whether it's adjusting speech times to accommodate a drunk groomsman or adjusting how quickly you can get guests seated if you're recognizing, hey, there's a really long line at the bar, we should probably call it earlier. You can do that. Absolutely. But understand that there are some pillars that are domino effects for the rest of the vendors. So before you announce guest seating, check in with the caterers. Make sure that they're actually ready for guests to take their seats. Maybe they've had a full-blown kitchen disaster and need about 15 minutes to get dinner back on track. You don't want your guests sitting down for 15 minutes without a bread basket. So please touch base with your caterers, touch base with the bartenders before the MC announces guest seating. And again, if you're the MC, be a rock and roll one and be doing this already, because chances are the couple that have trusted you with their day, they're gone. They're off taking photos. And honestly, you're babysitting their day and it's pretty expensive and pretty important. So keep that in mind when you're announcing the run sheet, but also recognize that some things will ebb and flow. So being a great problem solver, which again, if you are a trusted MC, they trust that you're going to be able to think on your feet and pivot accordingly. Just be prepared to. The best way that you can be prepared to pivot accordingly, again, surprise, surprise, the wedding planner has some rules. Please monitor your drinking. I know, again, from being a server, being an MC, being an ex-performer, that liquid courage sounds like a great option. Having 2 glasses of wine before you go behind the mic just loosens me up a bit. I'm even more funny. No, you're not. You're not. You're not any more funny than you are sober. You're not. You are equally as funny sober as you are drunk. And sometimes when you are drunk, you are actually less funny and more offensive. So again, monitor your drinking. Understand that although you are a guest that has been brought on to have some fun and really let your hair down after those speeches, until those speeches are done, you've got a role, you've got a job. Might not be paid for your job, but you're going to want to make sure that you do that job with some sort of integrity. And again, I've never met a sober MC that I didn't love, but I have met many drunk MCs that I have thought otherwise of. And that's all I will say on that. So although you're setting the tone, although you're setting the vibe and you're keeping the party and the energy going, you are not the drunkest in the room. You are not the loudest in the room, and you are not always the funniest in the room, but you are the most trusted. You are the most responsible. And you are the most connective part of the entire night. And what a cool role that is. What an incredible role that is. So don't take it with a grain of salt. Take those times, even if for you it seems like, oh gosh, why do we have to meet again? I know your schedule, man. Just text it to me. Take the time to get to know the couple on a deeper level. Get some great stories. Get some dirt. Get whatever drama and whatever tea that you want to sip on that night about the couple. But also take every story with a lot of heart and understand that this couple shared those thoughts with you and those memories with you and these moments with you because they want you to create a personal evening. So find a way to draw in that personal connection that you have, not only with the couple, but that you also have with the family, and help bridge those connections together. The other thing that I have to mention, and the last thing I will mention, is if you are an MC that has been to a wedding and weddings past, use those. Use those weddings in the past. Think back. What did that one MC at so-and-so's wedding do that just made you turn your chair every time they got up to the mic? What did that one MC do at so-and-so's wedding that made you fall on the floor laughing and almost choke on your wine? Maybe you might not be able to emulate it completely, but notice those organic moments that happen at weddings that you've attended that happen because of the MC, and find a way to integrate that into your friend's wedding day. Let's say that you are a master's of ceremony and you've actually never been to a wedding, or you've been to weddings, but they didn't have an MC, or at least no one memorable for you to remember how to pull it back on. That's okay. I'm going to tell you, watch some movies. Maybe not, the Wedding Singer, but like watch a couple wedding movies and see those cringe, awful moments that TV producers put in to make you feel awkward when the MC's jokes bomb. Understand that not every single joke that you write on that beautiful piece of paper that you will bring up to the microphone every time you speak, they might not always land. But that's why it's a really good thing that it's not a stand-up special for you. It's a wedding night for your friends. So if you're noticing that you're losing the crowd, that no one's laughing at your jokes, that you just cannot get a belly laugh from dad no matter how hard you try, I mean this with love. Stop trying. Go back to having that goal behind the microphone and explain exactly what you're there to do. Get a couple of laughs out, tell a few stories, but stick to the role. Do what you need to do to get through, and understand that your couple, the amazing couple that you're celebrating, that you get the chance to speak on behalf of, they selected you for a reason. Ask the questions you think you need to ask, but also lean into the vendors that are there. I actually don't have enough hands to count anymore. The amount of times we've heard from MCs going, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I could not have done that role without you. So don't do the role alone. Talk to the photographers, talk to the caterers, talk to the bartenders, build whatever support team you need as the MC to create the best experience for the couple. And again, if you have any doubt, make sure that you join the Wedding Planning Simplified group message. Make sure you join the Facebook group, And by that, you'll be able to see all of these live resources. You'll be able to take a look at our notes, and you'll be able to ask some questions on the wall as well. So with that in mind, that's all that I've got for you on this Sunday. Like I said, I was trying to keep it bite-sized and under the 30-minute mark by trying to keep in my pillars of 3. But if there's any points of being an MC that I didn't touch on that maybe you as an MC are feeling apprehensive about, or maybe you're still on the fence whether or not you need an MC for your wedding day, drop whatever comments you have below. I'd love to create a discussion. I know Amy creates those really fun posts where it's the talk amongst yourselves. Usually it's a controversial statement. This doesn't need to be controversial. Let's just swap whether or not we think masters of ceremonies are needed and whether they're not. And if you were on the fence about whether or not you needed a masters of ceremonies and I magically convinced you that you do need one, let me know which point really sold it for you. I can't wait to hear all that you've got to say about being a master of ceremony or selecting your masters of ceremonies. And of course, if you need anything else, Amy and I and the entire Unmistakably You team are always here, but we are especially here on our Sundays at 1 o'clock. Next week, we're going to be continuing our Oh Crud, What About series. And I'm not about to drop what topic we're chatting about. So make sure that you're being completely transparent and completely honest with anything that you feel like you may have dropped in your wedding plans. And it might just be the topic next week. Have an amazing rest of your Sunday, everybody. I can't wait to connect with all of you. We'll see you next week.